ELIAMEP has initiated Winds of Change, a study program funded by EEA Grants to look at the impact of renewable energy produced by offshore wind. It is a two-part project, one that looks at the socio-economic impact for Greece, the other that looks at the wider impact of renewable energy in the regional geopolitical model of Greece and the Eastern Mediterranean. We will discuss Winds of Change, and not only that, with Cleopatra Kitti, Senior Policy Advisor at ELIAMEP and founder of the Mediterranean Growth Initiative, and Ioannis Grigoriadis, Associate Professor and Jean Monnet Chair of European Studies at the Department of Political Science and Public Administration at Bilkent University and Head of Turkey Program at ELIAMEP. I want to welcome you both in this very interesting discussion.
It's very good to be with you, Odin.
Thank you, Odin, for the opportunity to talk about Winds of Change.
Well, and I want to begin with that question. How does this project fit into ELIAMEP work programs?
The Winds of Change is part of our Mediterranean program. For this program, our work looks at the connectivity potential of the region. We look at the region from a positive agenda, how we can create value and opportunities by more interconnectedness in the region across all sides of the Mediterranean. So our model of work is unique in the sense that it produces geoeconomic analysis. We produce geopolitical analysis that ELIAMEP is so well known for, and we complement that with socio-economic impact analysis. This model also of connectivity, or the focus of our work on the Mediterranean, creates also synergies with other programs at ELIAMEP, like the Turkey program, like the gender program, like the climate change and green agenda program.
Well, Mr. Grigoriadis, you are the head of Turkey program, and we know very well the geopolitical situation in the Eastern Mediterranean. And of course, it is very much, it has a lot of impact, it is influenced by the renewable energy and the energy situation. So where do you think that Winds of Change will help us understand all that?
Let me answer your question by referring first to what Ms. Kitti has described. I think it is important to stress that ELIAMEP has been interested in energy issues in the region, as well as in the Mediterranean as such. Of course, the focus has been more hydrocarbon energy. So there have been works at ELIAMEP focusing on pipeline construction, on the development of cooperation in the Eastern Mediterranean along the development of hydrocarbon resources. But renewable energy and wind power is coming to complement this discussion. It is important to stress here that promoting renewable energy is a priority set by the European Commission, and is considered to be an issue of vital importance for protecting our planet. So in that respect, there is a strong economic rationale behind exploring the potential of wind power in the Eastern Mediterranean. And there's also a very important environmental and sustainability dimension into this. So this is why we shift our attention into renewable energy while not ignoring the significance of hydrocarbons for the decades to come. In that respect, of course, we have had a negative experience over the last years. Unfortunately, the hydrocarbon potential of the Eastern Mediterranean has not been realized because of the fact that the regional disputes have made this monetization of the resources very difficult or impossible. And of course, as you mentioned, and you implied in your question, Turkey has been involved in this. Turkey has played a very negative role in derailing some of the energy projects in the Eastern Mediterranean. But our perspective is a perspective that is not aiming to exclude any country which is willing to play by the rules. And I refer here to the rules of international law and the rules of the global economy. So in that respect, promoting regional cooperation along the lines of renewable energy, in particular offshore wind power projects, is something that is going to benefit the whole region, and it's going to benefit Greece, Cyprus, Egypt, Turkey, Israel, Libya maybe in the future when the country overcomes its current situation. So it's going to be a project that is going to be involving the whole region, because the Mediterranean is one of the regions with the lowest level of interregional connectivity, which is a very sad observation. On the other hand, there's a lot of unrealized potential. So this project is hoping to contribute to the realization of this potential by highlighting some important areas of potential cooperation between the countries of the region.
Ms. Kitti, we heard what Mr. Grigoriadis said, and I want to ask you now, because people in Greece have a problem understanding about onshore wind farms, and there is a distrust. They don't trust onshore wind farms. They are very hesitant here in Greece. And I want to ask you how a program like Winds of Change can convince people that that is something good that is happening and is not going to harm environmentally sensitive regions in Greece.
That's a great question. Our work will look to produce evidence and analysis to broaden the conversation, sort of open up the conversation to elements that look primarily at offshore, not offshore wind energy production, which has its challenges and its opportunities. We will not be shy to highlight the challenges so that we can find solutions to those challenges. There is science, there is a lot of research and development invested in this technology. The whole point is to protect the environment, to help society have access to cheaper sources of energy whilst being environmentally conscious. So we would like to highlight that, but also create the evidence and the analysis to have those conversations about what are the trade-offs. What if we don't have the ability to collaborate as a region to produce cheaper energy, to help society create more jobs and opportunities through this green agenda, of also having the European Green Deal as the lightning rod of a new green economic model for Greece, for Europe, and for the Mediterranean. And just to highlight a point that Mr. Grigoriadis has mentioned is the potential being untapped in our region. You know, we are a region of 500 million people producing 10% of global GDP, but only a third of our trade is intra-regional. So keeping us apart or keeping our collaboration apart for any geopolitical reason is creating a big gap of opportunity for the people of the region, for the economies of the region, for us all being connected to the global value chain and trade. So we feel that with our work, both at ELIAMEP's Mediterranean program, but also with this Winds of Change program, we can begin to insert a different lens and a different narrative on the conversations that take place both at policy level, at business and investment level, and at societal level.
So, Mr. Grigoriadis, is there a relevance to the EU Green Deal after all?
Well, the EU Green Deal, as Ms. Kitti mentioned, is the lightning rod here. So it is the guiding principle that is going to shape energy policy in the European Union member states in the coming decades. And as I tried to highlight in my previous intervention, it is an issue of primary significance, of almost existential importance for the planet and for Europe too. We are talking about a region, the Eastern Mediterranean, which is threatened by desertification, is threatened by rising seawater levels. So in that respect, pioneering in the struggle against climate change is something that should be concerning the governments and the public opinions in all these countries. So reducing the carbon dioxide footprint of the region through the promotion of renewable energy production should be a priority. And I think it's a very happy coincidence that the European Union has set this as one of its key strategic priorities in the coming decades, which of course is going to imply some support and some intervention in order to promote the viability and the implementation of projects that involve member states, but also non-member states, and involve the whole Eastern Mediterranean region. This can involve connectivity projects that could, for example, refer to the establishment of electricity cable connection between countries of the region, or collaborative projects that aim to help the transport of energy from countries that have surplus of energy to other countries that have a shortage of energy. So in that respect, the European Green Deal is going to be crucially important for the implementation of such projects in Greece, in Cyprus, the 2 EU member states in the Eastern Mediterranean, but also, of course, Italy is not too far, and non-EU member states like Turkey or Egypt or Israel or Palestinian Authority or Syria, Lebanon, Libya could potentially become parts of this initiative if the political conditions exist, of course.
So can climate change become a catalyst in peacemaking and regional collaboration? And I'm asking that because you know that the geopolitics in the Eastern Mediterranean have been shaped by the discovery of natural gas, and everything, all the talk and all the fight is about natural gas. And then EU Green Deal comes, and then climate change and all that. And there may be another roadmap completely different that can bring these countries together, and maybe in the long run forget about natural gas. Ms. Kitti, Mr. Grigoriadis?
Climate change is the catalyst that will force countries and people to work together and defend our survival, I think, as human race and our planet. I think the geopolitics of tension have proven that it doesn't contribute to the well-being of our existence. It causes migration, it causes drought, it causes wars, it causes conflict. What climate change should do, and it has proven that no country can survive alone, because human lives are at risk, survival of countries is at risk when climate disasters occur. So we have to be in this together, and our region and our leaderships, but also societies need to find ways to collaborate. So the Green Deal can only succeed if it finds ways, if Europe finds ways to work with the countries of North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, but also our Levantine Basin and our part of the Mediterranean in the east. It needs to find ways not to have a top-down approach. It needs to have a bottom-up approach, looking at the benefits of the Green Deal, both at the micro-farming and agriculture level and at smaller community level, as well as the larger societal level across the countries of our region. To me, this is the challenge of the Green Deal, in making sure that it is a strategy that benefits both small producers, large producers, and our countries in the region. So it is a fair Green Deal. And I think our socio-economic impact study will very much highlight that impact on the socioeconomics of what the likely geopolitical policy making would be. So we will have a balanced view on how geoeconomics work for this project of winds of change. But I leave it to Mr. Grigoriadis to insert his view on the geopolitics and the socioeconomics aspect of our work here.
To be honest, the track record of the region is not very good in terms of cooperation, as we highlighted that there is this untapped potential because the region has been hampered by conflict and confrontation for decades. And you mentioned also the discussion that was raised in the region because of the discovery of natural gas and all the hopes and the hype about the monetization of this natural gas resources and how this could become a catalyst for conflict resolution in the region. We know that this was not the case, unfortunately. So yet another opportunity was missed for the Eastern Mediterranean. But now that we're moving slowly to a new era, the era of the post-carbon economy, and even the fact that the European Union is now less keen on supporting hydrocarbon projects in the Eastern Mediterranean, anywhere else in the world, it is important to highlight that developing renewable energy infrastructures and, of course, wind power is an important part in this story, is of primary significance for the region. And this could become an opportunity not to be missed because the region has very significant potential, which is going to have a positive effect on the economies of all the countries in the region, but also the region can be an exporter of energy to the European market. So this is another parameter that needs to be highlighted here. Of course, one can ask why should it work this time? What has changed in the region so that like Turkey and Israel and Egypt and Greece and Cyprus collaborate together? Well, our project is not going to solve or suggest how to resolve these disputes. These disputes have been there for a very long time, and they may well survive, but we're here to highlight the opportunities. And of course, it's up to politicians, and it's up to people who run the diplomacy, the foreign policy of these countries, to decide to go this way or the other way. But what we would like to highlight through this project is the opportunity which is there and which is can be realized in the upcoming years. And this opportunity is going to have a positive effect on the environment of the countries too. Mr. Linardatou, you mentioned all these discussions about and the protests against the development of wind power farms in Greece. There have been a lot of concerns about the locations, the specific locations where these wind power farms have been established. If you ask my opinion, I do agree that location is very important and it has to be carefully chosen so that natural habitats or other environmental parameters are taken into consideration. But let me highlight here that we talk here about offshore plants. So this is something that doesn't exist in Greece yet. So it exists in many European countries, but not in the Eastern Mediterranean context. So in that respect, we can argue that the effect on the islands, the direct effect on the islands is going to be less compared to the case whereby this wind power plants would be established on the islands. Of course, there are important environmental considerations even in offshore power plants, and these are going to be accounted for. So this is meant to be a project that's going to improve the sustainability of the Greek economy and the Greek environment as well. And of course, not only the Greek environment and the Greek economy, but also the economy and the environment of all countries in the region. So it is going to be a project that's going to highlight a common opportunity for the Eastern Mediterranean, for the countries and the peoples of the region as well.
So do you believe that the pandemic has helped in any way, has made things go forward more quickly because people understand now how dangerous climate change is, and due to the pandemic and because of the pandemic?
Yes, I think you're right in highlighting the impact of the pandemic in the sense that it has proven that we're an interconnected society, that what happens in one part of the world impacts the rest of the world. So in that sense, collaboration and multilateralism, interconnectedness, supply chains, connecting grids of production and supply is a very important part of our future. So I believe that, and I hope, the pandemic has expedited policymakers' decision making when it comes to interconnectivity projects. I mean, this project will take reference from the work that the Nordic countries have done in producing an interconnected model of different sources of energy, including some that are based on natural gas, some that are based on nuclear, some that are based on solar and wind. And the idea is that at no moment in time, whatever the weather condition or the conditions to produce and distribute energy, leave a society, an economy, or a country exposed. That's the idea that we would like to study and see how we could replicate or take some of its principles and implement in our part of the world. But that also is based on, as I said, evidence, analysis, and our recommendations to create that debate or add to the existing debate on renewable energy and climate change in the Mediterranean.
So, Mr. Grigoriadis, we heard what Ms. Kitti is saying and what you said, and how is Winds of Change going also to promote public dialogue on renewable energy and climate change and all that? Because I think one of the problems, and not only in Greece, but also in Turkey, in Egypt, in Libya, in Cyprus, Israel, and in many, many more countries, also in Italy, is that people do not understand some of these things. They don't understand how they can work in favor of them. Many of them fear that they are going to lose their jobs, that that all this is something that is for the elites and not for the farmers, for the people that live in their villages, in the islands. So how are you going to promote this public dialogue so that people will understand?
There will be some public events, some webinars, and some papers that are going to make the main points of the project and the main findings of our research clear. And this will be just the beginning of a greater dialogue in which, of course, civil society organizations, the public opinion representatives like journalists or like academics, professionals in the field of energy will be invited to make their contributions so that we have a more informed and better informed public about where the energy market is moving and why the transition from the hydrocarbon to the renewable energy economy is something very important, not only for Greece and the European Union, but also for the greater region. Let me highlight something that I think is worth mentioning here. You mentioned the effect of the pandemic. I think the pandemic has led to a sharp decrease of energy prices in its beginning, which rendered the realization of some important hydrocarbon projects in the region and beyond the region more difficult, if not unfeasible. So in that respect, the pandemic has become an accelerator on the transition to green power energy, because at the same time, renewable energy technology is becoming more efficient and more cost effective. So in that respect, the transition from hydrocarbon to green power energy has become somewhat facilitated by what we've experienced in the last year and a half.
Ms. Kitti, what do you believe that will be a timeline of the reports and the webinars? And how and where can our listeners find more information on this project?
The timeline is one that looks at July for our first reports or summary of the reports, with September being the month towards the end of September where we'll hold a series of stakeholder dialogues, a public debate, and also we share the report and its findings with the wider public, but also through the ELIAMEP network. We have, at ELIAMEP, we have a specific website portal that looks at the EEA Winds of Change program, which is available on our website. And all the details are there. So look out for July as our initial month of releasing our first reports, and then for September for a more expanded dialogue with all parties, all stakeholders concerned.
We do hope that these projects will become just the beginning of deeper regional cooperation on the question of renewable energy, in the hope that we will start realizing the potential that we've discussed from the beginning of this conversation that remains untapped. There are a lot of common interests in the Mediterranean that we need to pursue, and this is likely to change the image of a region that is normally remembered for conflict, confrontation, and acrimonies. Desertification and the rise of waters in the Mediterranean is going to affect all coasts and all countries, no matter what. And cooperation in that respect is even more significant, because if all countries work together, then it is likely that a positive solution will be achieved. If some countries don't collaborate, this is going to impact the whole region. So this means that we have to work together and find solutions that are going to secure the future of our generations, like the future people of Greece, of Cyprus, of Egypt, of Turkey, of Italy, of Syria, of Libya. And of course, this is going to be in line with Europe's vision for our region. So the European Union has been a regional integration project that can lend some of its principles to the Eastern Mediterranean for the benefit of all peoples in the region.
I want to thank you both, Ms. Kitti, Mr. Grigoriadis, for this discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.